is halfway through the sailing trip of a lifetime.
I remember the first time I went out sailing. I love the immediacy of it. You can go off and have an adventure.
He's already sailed from the USA to the Canary Islands and is now heading off on the 3,500-mile return leg, back across the Atlantic to the Caribbean.
Testing.
I figured on the very outside it would be a month to get to the Caribbean, but I'd probably make it in a few weeks.
For Steve, the trip is an adventure and also a means of escape.
My life was in a bit of a shambles. My marriage had gone south and we had split up. There I was, ready for a new stage of my life.
Steve is hoping that isolation on the open seas in his self-built boat will help him leave a difficult year behind.
I was really on my own out there, which was fine. I didn't need people. I didn't really need the society so much. I pictured myself more as like a sea creature.
In Steve's first week at sea, weather conditions could hardly be better.
When I left the Canary Islands for a week, I had just the most idyllic sail. Everything was just beautiful, and I'd listen to my radio and play the boat like a drum. Do my exercise. I had this whole exercise routine on the boat. It just felt completely at home there.
But 800 miles and 1 week out into the mid-Atlantic, the weather begins to change.
The weather just started turning dirty. It was probably blowing 35 or so knots. And the waves started growing.
For an experienced sailor like Steve, it's nothing out of the ordinary.
I'd seen a lot worse weather before. And so I figured, well, it'll probably be a day or two and this will scoot by. And I wasn't worried. Everything was fine.
As night falls and the rough weather continues, Steve switches on the autopilot and beds down for the night.
People think that sailing is a very quiet undertaking. It's not. Big waves are slamming against the side of the boat. You get this quite jerky motion, but I was still able to kind of lie down, and I was kind of half asleep. All of a sudden, there was this big bang on the side of the boat. There was just this huge flood of water immediately.
Steve has no idea what he's hit, but the boat's hull has been torn apart.
The water was rising very, very quickly.
Within seconds, the water is above his head.
I just thought, this boat is going to be underwater. I'm going right to the bottom.
Steve's boat is sinking. He knows he has seconds to get to the life raft up on deck.
So I yank on the line, and if the line keeps coming out, no, nothing. It just didn't work at all. Finally, boom, it pops open.
Steve makes it to safety. But just as he's about to cut himself loose, a terrifying thought hits him.
With the equipment that's in the raft, I will not last very long at all.
Everything he needs to have any chance of survival is stowed deep inside the flooded boat.
It was essential that I go back on the boat and dive down and get equipment, even though I realized that the boat could slip under the waves at any moment.
Against every instinct, he knows he has no option but to dive back down into the sinking boat.
So it was all dark in there, so I couldn't really see anything. I could feel the ditch kit. It was tied down, and I started cutting away.
Steve frees his emergency supply kit. But just as he makes it to the exit hatch,
The hatch slammed closed. The boat's covered with water. I'm going down. I thought that was it. If I don't get out of here right now, I am going to die. There's 100% certainty of that.
but just as Steve's lungs are about to burst, a huge wave breaks across the boat.
All of a sudden, there's air. It was a huge, huge relief.
With only seconds to spare, Steve escapes, clutching his vital emergency supplies.
I jumped into the raft and I saw that I was drifting away from the boat.
Steve can only watch as he drifts away from not just his boat, but also his dream.
I went drifting off into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It just was kind of devastating. That first night, it blew hard. Really cold and really wet and really scary. I was shivering a lot and I was worried about dying of hypothermia. I might not make it till the morning.
Dawn breaks to reveal the true horror of Steve's situation. His boat is gone, and he is alone in the middle of the Atlantic.
I'm a long way away from anybody, and I'm in a very empty part of the ocean as well. I am just this teeny little thing surrounded by this immensity of sea. It was kind of overpowering.
Steve has no means of communication and knows that no one will be looking for him.
I told people at home, I gave them 5 or 6 weeks after I left the Canary Islands as being, don't worry about me if I don't show up this time.
Steve calculates he's 1,000 miles from land and completely at the mercy of wind and currents as they push him further westwards, out into the ocean.
I was in a place where there was basically no shipping, and I really needed to get to the shipping lanes to have any chance of being picked up at all.
Steve estimates that the shipping lanes are 350 miles further west. But even if the winds still push him in the same direction, it will take him at least 2 weeks to get there. And he only has a tiny supply of emergency drinking water.
I was worried. I had 8 pints of water, which theoretically was good enough for maybe 8 days.
Without enough water, he has almost no chance of making the shipping lanes alive.
It's a great irony that the world's biggest desert actually is the ocean. You can't drink any of the water there. There's no shade, and my chances of survival were almost hopeless.
Along with a harpoon and a few other supplies he rescued from his boat, Steve discovers 3 emergency water purification kits, known as solar stills.
The solar stills that I had were created during the Second World War for downed pilots. I never knew anybody who'd actually used them before. I've got 8 pints of water. It's over 2 weeks before I reach the shipping lane. So the solar stills were absolutely critical to any long-term survival.
Steve fills the still with seawater, knowing that the heat of the sun should separate the salt from the water.
I'd have, half hour, I've got a whole bag of water. I kept trying them again and again and again.
Steve cannot figure out how the solar stills work.
It's seawater, it was just seawater, it just didn't work at all.
And now he faces his first full night adrift in the ocean.
I was desperately lonesome, and there was no part of this that was not kind of a hellish experience.
Steve knows that it's essential he solves his drinking water problem, and the storm gives him an idea.
I knew that most survivors had relied on collecting rainwater.
If Steve can use the raft's canopy to collect rainwater, he may have hit upon an answer.
It was pretty much like drinking somebody's vomit. It was just so awful, it was undrinkable.
The orange pigment from the canopy contaminates the water.
I decided I'm never going to drink the water off the canopy. It was just too dangerous.
Steve's quest to find solace out at sea has resulted in horrific isolation, and he can see no way out of his ordeal.
I wrote my own epitaph that day. My name is Stephen Callahan. I was shipwrecked at approximately this position. I am drifting in a 6-man raft. I'm doomed. I just felt like I was totally doomed.
The currents are pushing Steve westwards, towards the shipping lanes, his only chance of rescue. But he's over 2 weeks away, with only enough water to last him a few days.
It wasn't going to keep me alive very long. I'm taking a little sip every now and then, hardly even swallowing it, really. It's just being more absorbed. I'm getting really thirsty. thought that I could go indefinitely as long as the raft was in one piece, and now the raft isn't in one piece anymore. Maybe this is going to be the end of the line.
With the crucial bottom ring of his raft damaged, it is now too unstable for Steve to fish or collect water.
It was like I was walking in rubber quicksand. Plus, it's not really drifting very fast with the wind, so I'm not going to make it if I don't find a solution. I kept getting a repair on there, and I wound stuff around it really tight, and I'd pump it up. I kept doing it again and again and again for days. It was really very depressing because I just didn't think that I could fix it.
Steve knows the punctured raft is a disaster. He's going slower, wasting precious calories pumping it up, and now faces an even bigger problem.
I started consuming both water and the fish that was hanging to dry. I was unable to renew that stock while the bottom was deflated. I imagine it wouldn't have been a whole lot longer before I would have died.
For 10 days, Steve exhausts himself trying to keep the raft inflated, but fails. After battling to stay alive for so long, it's the final straw.
I was absolutely beat. That was it. I gave up. I just laid down. I was like, I just totally broke down. You're gonna die all alone in the middle of the ocean. You've never done anything successful in your life. I only had failed marriage, failed relationships. I'd never really given enough of myself to anybody. I just wasted a life.
Starving, thirsty, and without hope, Steve feels that death is now a certainty.
And then I got scared. This is very real, and you're gonna be dead in a matter of hours if you don't snap out of it and get yourself together.
In a final act of desperation, Steve searches for anything that might save his life.
And it just, something happened, and it just clicked, and I go, oh yeah, the fork.
Steve hopes that a fork might just be strong enough to secure a patch to the raft.
I couldn't jump around and jump for joy or anything, but that was just like the hugest victory of my life.
But Steve's elation is short-lived. His supplies have virtually vanished. He's still hundreds of miles from land, and his body is desperately weak.
Well, yeah, I got out of that, but now what? I'm still doomed. There's a day off your life. There's another day off your life. I really didn't think I was gonna make it. It really was a period of just hanging on. Oh my God, this is such marginal life. Looking at my watch and thinking that minutes had passed, looking at it again and it being like 30 seconds had passed. It was like, it just seemed to drag on a really long time.
After 66 days alone, Steve's final lifeline is gone. His solar stills have reached the end of their working life.
The cloth on the bottom is rotted out. It's going to be totally useless. There's no way to repair it.
His only means of producing drinking water is now gone.
I just figured this really is it. You know, I have no hope anymore. It was ending.
Steve now only has 3 cans of emergency water left, and his body's toxic salt levels are pushing his sanity to the limits.
The physical part of me is going, hey, there's water over there, let's go snag that. But there was that overbearing rational part of me that was going, no, I don't care. Unless, you know, you are dying, you're not getting into that right yet. This is a view of heaven from a seat in hell.
Alone on the ocean for over 70 days, Steve's body and mind are now shutting down. His only hope is to reach land.
I expected to see the islands like days and days before now. I should be reaching the islands. I should be seeing some sign of reaching the islands.
But then Steve has a shocking realization. If he's miscalculated his position, currents will sweep him back into mid-ocean and certain doom.
Maybe I'm way north of the islands, next stop England, you know, 8 months from now. So that was tough. I was very worried that I had screwed up and I wasn't going to make it. I just don't know anymore. Maybe I'm dead. I've never been dead before. Maybe this is what it's like and this is what I deserve for my shabby life, and maybe I'm just gonna be floating around out here forever. I felt all the hopelessness of people who'd been adrift at sea before and never came back, and nobody ever knew what happened to them. And here I was amongst them, and I could kind of feel them all around me. It just was a horribly desperate feeling. It was over. I was just done. I had no more to give. All of a sudden, it was like all kinds of crates and bottles and plastic. To me, that was the first definitive sign that I was coming into changes. I'm gonna see something. The sun rose. It was like, pff, there's an island in front of me. I couldn't have been more than 10 miles out. To see the green of the island was like, oh, it was such a, it was intense.
But to his horror, Steve realizes that the island is an impregnable fortress of vertical cliffs and razor-sharp coral reefs.
Oh my God, I've come all this way, and there's no way I can make a landing.
After enduring so much for so long, Steve can't let salvation slip away from him at the final hurdle.
This voyage is ending today. No question about it. One way or the other, this is going to come to an end. Great, somebody's actually, I couldn't believe somebody was actually out there.
On the morning of his 76th day adrift, Steve is spotted by some local fishermen.
He said something to the effect of like, "What you doing out here, man?" You know, it's like, well, I'm not out here, you know, improving my suntan. My senses were like plugged into an electric circuit somehow. They were all amplified so that every color was like really, really vibrant and every smell was really, really intense. It just was like heart-wrenching. It was so beautiful to me.
Having endured 76 days in his tiny raft, Steve's leg muscles have atrophied and he weighs just 100 pounds. After 6 weeks in the hospital, Steve is reunited with the parents he thought he'd never see again. The small island of Marie-Galante, where he's found, is just 60 miles south of his original destination, Antigua.
There's nothing noble in me having survived. It's just what I did. I had too much unfinished business, and I think that kept me alive to a large degree.
For the trip.
I first met Lorenzo Madrid when we were in junior high school.
Hey, Larry. What? Look at that. See
We were pretty much good time boys.
Oh, yeah, she cut your beard.
Hey, shut it. He was a good guy to hang around with.
Well, boy.
The men are based on a tour ship anchored off Guardian Angel Island 20 miles from the Mexican coast. The east side of the island is popular with fishing tours, but today their local guide, Pepe, is taking them to a remote cove on the more exposed western coast.
It's quiet, it's desolate, you're all alone.
She comes, come on.
It's like fishing nowhere else in the world.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
It's fantastic.
I can't believe it. Look at that, Joe. Try another lure.
Get out of here. You think I don't know what I'm doing?
Well, how many have you caught today?
Nothing.
The detour to the remote side of the island pays off. After a successful day's catch, the two friends are more than happy with their guide, Pepe.
He's a nice kid. He's outgoing, willing to please. Pepe did not speak any English at all.
What'd he say?
The bucket's too small, man.
The bucket's too small.
Sí, vamos.
As the sun starts to set, it's time to head back to the tour boat.
Hey, buddy.
We just sat down and opened the beer and get the ride back to the big boat.
But when Pepe swings south, the boys begin to wonder if they're heading in the right direction. The tour boat was anchored on the northern tip of the island.
Should we go?
No, I don't think so. Yeah. This stuff's not familiar to me.
Pepe, hey, ¿dónde vas?
So I asked him, isn't the boat back there?
Vamos bien, el Celiagelina se fue para el sur mientras ustedes andaban pescando.
Sí.
And he said, no. While you guys were fishing, the boat passed us. And they went this way.
I didn't say it.
Nah, me neither.
We figured he's a professional, he knows what he's doing, he knows where he's at. And we left it at that.
But after an hour motoring south along the island's coastline, there's still no sign of the tour boat. And Pepe has more immediate concerns.
Joe. Ya no hay gasolina.
¿Cómo cae la poca gasolina?
He tells us, I think I'm running out of gas.
What's up?
No fuel is what's up.
Oh, it just gets better.
It was a bad situation, it was dangerous.
They have just minutes before the engine cuts out. And without power, Joe knows they can't steer the boat and could easily be swept out to sea by the currents.
I said, let's beach this while you have power.
Pepe, vamos a la playa.
¿Qué playa? Pura roca, no puedo para allá.
Their only hope is to make it to land. But the island's coastline is a fortress of jagged rocks and sheer cliff faces.
He said, there's no beaches. This whole island is rocks.
They know they have no option but to try to reach the shore.
Between the current and the sharks, I'd rather take my chance on land than out in the water.
Vamos.
No me quiero estrellar, no puedo estrellar.
Vamos con ella. A la playa, vamos.
The only thing you can see is the white of the pounding water on the rocks. We were scared.
Their only way to reach land is to power the boat directly into the raging surf. But just as it seems they'll make it safely,
A surge of water hit me from behind and forced me into the rocks.
the men make it to shore. But they're now stranded on the island, with no way of calling for rescue.
Larry! Hold on
You're totally soaked. The wind is blowing, and we started shivering down to the bone.
The men search for driftwood and build a fire, using up their last few drops of fuel to get it going.
Once we got the fire going, we were able to dry off, and it wasn't all that unbearable anymore.
Not so bad now, Larry.
We knew it should have been an easy thing for the big boat to pick us up the next morning.
It's calls for a beer.
The men resign themselves to a night out in the open, believing their stay on the island will be a short one.
Boat will pick us up in the morning. We out.
They spend the next morning waiting to be collected.
My guess was that we would be picked up no later than noon. All we have to do is just wait, and the boat should be here.
Midday comes, and there's no sign of rescue.
Now it's getting a little bit more serious as the day is wearing on. We need to get out of here.
Mid-afternoon, and Pepe drops a bombshell.
I said, well, I don't think they're gonna pick us up.
The men are washed up on the side of the island that fishing boats never visit. Their tour boat won't look for them here.
They're not gonna come this way. They're not gonna look for us. It's like somebody just pulled the bottom out from under you.
La única manera de salir de aquí es si nosotros hacemos algo al respecto.
¿Qué hacemos?
What's he saying?
He said the only way we're gonna get off of here is if we do something ourselves.
Pepe comes up with an audacious plan to get them back to the mainland.
Si no tiene agua, pero la podemos sacar con la cubeta. Si a Larry le podemos dar la cubeta, nos remos, se puede buscar para...
He says we can bail it out. Get it on the sea. Maybe we can use it.
Is he serious?
He said, we can take this boat across. We can row across.
Larry puede sacar con la cubeta.
Between the three of us, we can get it over there.
With no fuel for the boat's engine, they'll have to row to the mainland. But it's a 20-mile journey across open seas.
It was an unbearable hot day, probably close to 100, but it felt good to be doing something.
Out. Get the rhythm. Keep this up, guys. We're gonna make it.
We actually thought we could make it.
For 2 punishing hours, the men row in the intense heat, their hands torn by the rough driftwood paddles.
I'm getting exhausted. I am getting to the point where I'm just gonna drop.
As the sun dips towards the horizon, the men's stubborn determination finally pays off.
¿Qué es eso? Mira, 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 para allá, barcos. ¡Hay barcos!
Dice,
Aquí!
You can see people on boats. They didn't hear us. They didn't hear us. They didn't look. They didn't do anything.
They can't see us. Joe, keep paddling.
The men push on, hoping to close the distance to the shore. They make progress for another hour. But from nowhere, they're gripped by a powerful undercurrent.
We're going backwards. What? We're going back. What do you mean?
It's a very strong current. It's a really strong current.
Too far away.
Now we couldn't make any headway.
The tide has turned, and it's pulling them backwards.
Come on, Joe, come on!
We're trying frantically to row faster.
Come on, take
Come on, come on! Come on! It's not that far! We're not moving.
We are in some deep trouble.
As night falls, the men give in to their exhaustion. But as they sleep, they're being dragged back ever closer towards the rocky shores of the island.
Joe, Larry. ¡Despierten! ¡Nos vamos contra la roca!
Joe! Joe, wake up! It rocks! Stop panicking, buddy! Come on now! Come on!
The current was going to take us wherever it wanted. We're going to crash, and we're going to crash hard.
Joe and Pepe make it safely to shore. But Lorenzo is thrown violently onto the rocks, severely spraining both of his ankles. The three men's attempt to escape the island has failed, and their boat is now completely wrecked.
We didn't talk much that night. Lorenzo and I were pretty down in the dumps. We were depressed.
400 miles away, in California, Joe's wife receives a phone call.
That was when I learned that they were missing. I just was gone. I can't even describe it. It was like, my feet were kicked out from me.
Joe and Lorenzo wake up, knowing they are completely stranded on the barren, uninhabited island.
There was nothing there, nothing that could give you shade. There was just nothing.
Their only hope now is to be found by a search party, but they are in no physical condition for a prolonged wait.
I was somewhat overweight, and I had found out about a year earlier that I was diabetic.
Joe suffers from type 2 diabetes, a condition where the normal levels of sugar in the blood can decrease rapidly. It's commonplace, but potentially life-threatening if not managed properly. And 50-year-old Lorenzo is unfit and grossly overweight.
Lorenzo may have had health issues. I pressed him on it, but he said no, that he didn't. But then at the same time, he told me that he hadn't been to a doctor for years.
As they face a third night out in the open, Pepe again insists that help is not coming.
He just kept saying that the only way that we're getting out of here is if we get ourselves out of here.
He says they ain't coming.
And as the night wears on, Joe and Lorenzo finally accept they are now totally on their own.
I felt that the world had abandoned us. It was very slow progress. Sometimes we wouldn't go more than a mile or two in a day. Around 1 or 2, we would start looking for a place where we could spend the night.
It's an excruciating routine, made even harder by the fact that their scavenged water supply is running out.
Those castaway bottles kept us alive. But as the days went on, we were finding less and less water.
Water!
We found maybe 6 ounces a day, maybe, that we would have to split 3 ways.
Salt.
When their precious few drops of water finally run out, they know they won't survive in this heat for much longer. Their hike north is now a race against time.
I never really thought survival was as difficult as it is.
After a week stumbling through the water, Joe has deep cuts in his legs. They're becoming infected, and blood poisoning is now a real threat. If it sets in, it could kill him within hours.
This could be a lost cause. I could die here. And I told him, look, I'm gonna write a letter to my wife and my kids in case something happens to me. I love you all. Don't blame anybody of what happened to me. I put myself in the situation and I died here, but it's just something that happened.
Joe asks Lorenzo if he too wants to write a message to his loved ones.
Hey, Larry. No. I don't want to do that right now.
And he said, no, I don't want to do that. Not yet. I don't want to be doing this. Maybe he didn't want to really face a situation we're in or what the outcome might be.
Ravenously hungry, the 3 men are desperate for anything to eat. Joe resorts to pulling tiny sea snails from the rocks.
Pepe.
I gave one to Lorenzo. I go, here, eat it. And he looked at it and said, I'm not going to eat that. I knew that he had to have something, but at the same time, I can't force it down his throat. He'd have to eat it because he wanted to.
When the sun is gone, the temperature plummets. So far, they've kept warm with driftwood fires. But now, disaster strikes.
What happened?
It broke.
The lyre it just fell apart in his hands. The salt water had just eaten it.
From now on, the men have only each other to keep warm. With death closing in, the men are unaware their families have been searching for them. But they've joined the rescue teams that believe the men are fishing on the east side of the island. After 6 days searching, Joe's son calls home with devastating news.
He says, I can't find him. He's not there, Mom. I don't know if we'll ever find him. And he was heartbroken.
After 8 days missing, the search is finally abandoned. The men are feared lost at sea.
I had given up hope. The reality of it was he was dead and wasn't coming back.
The men struggle on northwards. But still, there's no sign of any fishing boats. Lorenzo is becoming increasingly depressed and irrational.
Stop. We gotta go back. I lost my glasses. We gotta go back. I want my glasses. Things are gonna be okay.
He just totally panicked. He lost it.
They're my glasses. I need my glasses. You got me. I need my glasses. I need my glasses.
I'm trying to convince him, okay, look, now I'll be your eyes. But there's no consoling him. For him, it was the end of the world. Lorenzo was starting to lose touch with reality.
Joe, let's switch.
Lorenzo asked me if he could be on back of the raft. He wanted to trade places with me.
I want to go behind for a while, okay?
Delirious with dehydration, Joe takes up his friend's offer of a ride, without realizing how desperate Lorenzo's condition has become.
I heard a gurgling noise behind me.
Larry!
And I turned around,
Larry!
and his head is underwater.
Larry!
I told Pepe, he's in trouble. We must get him out of the water.
Ayúdame, Joe. Joe, ayúdame. Joe, agárrale los brazos.
Larry!
Agárrale los brazos.
Larry! Get him up! Larry!
Larry, está bien.
I'm talking to him, and there's no response.
Larry!
Larry.
The look on his face it wasn't right.
Larry!
I start checking for a pulse. I checked his neck, his wrist. It was just nothing.
After 12 days, battling to stay alive, Lorenzo has finally succumbed.
I told Pepe he's dead. He passed away. He just died, and I couldn't do anything. That's probably the worst moment of my life. At first, I was angry that he abandoned me. We should be seeing this through the end. But then I realized it was a big ordeal for him. And his body just gave out.
Joe decides to leave his best friend's body on the beach, in full view of the ocean and any passing boat.
I want him found. I want his body found, even if it's just skeleton. I want him to be found, be taken home.
I'm gonna come back for you.
I said my goodbyes to him, and I told him that I have to leave. It broke my heart.
Joe and Pepe struggled to keep moving north, barely clinging to life with every step.
We were living moment by moment. It was no longer, can I do the 10 more feet? It was right now, can I take another step?
Battling his diabetes, it's a miracle that Joe has survived 13 days without food or proper water. But now he fears the end is near, and he faces an agonizing, anonymous death.
If I die, nobody is ever gonna find my bones. I was at rock bottom.
Joe, es un barco.
Pepe turns around and yells at me, "Did you see that boat?" He was very excited. I didn't think there was a boat. I thought he was hallucinating. All of a sudden, I'm alone.
Joe and Pepe are finally saved by two Mexican fishermen.
It was exhilarating to see this boat. Thank God this is over. I was relieved, like a big burden had been lifted off my shoulder.
That afternoon, Joe's wife, Margaret, gets a call from her son.
He says, they found Dad. He walked out this morning. The fishermen picked him up. He's okay. I mean, I was elated, but at the same time, I just knew that there was more wrong. He told me that Lorenzo has passed away. And I says, oh my God.
Seeing my wife, my son, my daughter, all of them, it was great. I just felt bad that Lorenzo wasn't there to share it.
Lorenzo's body was recovered and taken back to his wife and family in the US.
If Lorenzo had gone one more day, he would have been with us. He'd be here now.